G'day everybody, Andy Maher. Welcome to episode 3 of The Blueprint, proudly brought to you by our good friends at Hyundai. Joining me, as always, former champion skipper of the club, Mark Maclure, and the Blues general manager of footy ops, Andrew McKay. Tough week, lads. Easier weeks to come along and have a chat about the footy club than this one that we've just endured, but we front up and we talk about it and we move on. Good to see you, Macca.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks, Mark. It's obviously a tough week at Carlton, but you know what? We've got to face the music. It just wasn't good enough on Sunday night.
We've got some issues to broach too, and I think we should. I mean, the club's been pretty open since the last game, but I think that it all started with a lot of inconsistency.
Certainly was. I mean, if you look back 3 weeks, our first game against Port Adelaide, that first quarter was probably the best quarter we played in a couple of years. The pressure we put on the ball carrier when Port had the ball, and the style of play that we managed to adopt, and we thought we did a very good job. We didn't get scoreboard pressure on. We ended up 4-4 at quarter time. And scoreboard pressure shouldn't be underestimated. You know, just give us that buffer. And then, as you mentioned, there's a bit of inconsistency through that second quarter.
Terrible.
Westhoff got on top, kicked a few goals. We tried to make a few changes under him without success. Third quarter we came back okay, and then the last quarter was probably more structured, to be honest, out of that middle. If you cast your mind back, they cleared the ball too easily out of the centre square.
Just about every time.
And it was someone not setting up at the back. And we adjusted that after about, by the time the message got out there and by the time the players could adjust, it was probably about the 6 or 7 minute mark. They kicked about 4 goals in that time.
Yeah, but they showed enough. I thought they showed enough that you could see that there was a reasonable side out there.
Absolutely.
But the next week worried me more. Against Richmond, the first week, first half of the game, they were caught one player behind the play in Richmond, and we were the same. Bryce Gibbs didn't go to Delidio when he should have, and I think that was the plan. It took till half-time till Andres Everett went on to him and calmed him down. In the first half, we had 2 play-on marks for the first half. In the second half, we had 18. Huge difference. We went man-on-man and changed the whole game, but just didn't have the courage or the gumption to actually put it through the middle of the goals. And that's the difference.
That is a real difference, and especially early on. We had our chances early on to actually kick some goals, and we didn't. And I suppose that... whether it's subconsciously or not, but it sets a tone for the day, doesn't it? Thinking, gee, this is going to be a tough day if we're kicking points all day. We let Delidio go.
Bryce did.
Bryce let Delidio go, when really that was the match-up for the first half. We realised that after about 10 minutes into the game that Delidio only had 6 in the first 10 minutes and had 12 for the first quarter. We're very mindful of that. Changed Andreas Everett onto him, who did a
terrific job.
Really good job. Yeah. But you know, a lot of damage was done then. And as you said, we came back hard in the second half, but we let a few of the really good players off the hook early in the first quarter, and that damaged us significantly.
6 goals down, it's hard to get back from.
It's a tough ask, but you know what? The cold facts are that we actually should have been up halfway through the last quarter still.
Should have won the game.
We should have won the game. And we lost the game.
And then you get a performance like Sunday nights where it's uncompetitive pretty much from the word go. And it's the worst thing you can label against a footy team. And Carlton people would hate to say that about the blokes that we love and the jumper we love supporting. And Mark Murphy said it. And embarrassment was a word used. And the looks on their faces say everything after the game. Character gets tested at a time like this, Mac. Are you confident that within this group there's enough character and leadership to rally beyond the challenge that Melbourne are going to present this week going forward for the rest of the season?
You see the faces there in the change rooms after the game. They are absolutely devastated, as is the administration. Everyone to do with Carlton is absolutely devastated on how we went about it on Sunday night. And it just wasn't good enough. They worked way, way harder than we worked. And if you work harder than a team, no matter what your structure is, no matter what your game plan is, you often win. So it was, embarrassment has been used. It was devastating for us, and we need to regroup. We need to get back on the horse. We need to fire up for this week. We've got another game on Saturday, and it needs to be a whole lot better than it has been.
Macca, there's outcomes and there's causes. The outcome is that we played really poorly in the 3rd game of the year. In the other 2 games, we showed glimpses. In the last game, we showed naught, almost, I would say. What's the causes? The causes to that are what? Game style? Causes are to that, once your game style, and it looks like to me they're voting with their feet that they don't like the game style they're playing.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because we've obviously had a myriad of meetings this week with various groups around the place. Coaches had a meeting with the leaders a couple of days ago and said, look, is everyone on board with this game style? Go away, get feedback from the group. And they were 100%, this is the right way for us to go. So they...
Well, why don't they do it?
They want to play the game style that Mick wants to play. So I think a couple of things have to come into consideration. We need to be better at kicking goals, and it sounds so basic and so fundamental, but we haven't been able to do it. Whether that's a mindset thing with a bit of pressure.
It's mental.
It's absolutely it is. And mental, and the game on Sunday was a mental aberration, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure.
You can't go from the second half of Richmond to go into the Essendon game and have such a difference.
Unbelievable.
People don't lose their skill. Nope. They don't lose their size. They don't lose their fitness. But what does happen?
Mentally
mentally don't switch on.
And the endorsement was ringing amongst the Carlton players for Mick. You talked about the meetings that have had, and I mean, everybody that was asked the question was singing from the same hymn book about being on the same page with the coach. What's Mick been like since the game on Sundays? Is he... I mean, he's clearly in for the fight. He clearly wants to be here for longer than... It seems like he wants to be here for longer than the term of the contract that he's got. He seems like he's certainly making those noises.
Certainly still got the fire in the belly, that's for sure. He wants to make good. He's had every player that played on the weekend file through his office this week. And the underlying message is, it's no use dwelling on the result, it's how you actually respond to that result, you know?
Yep.
And that's what we've got ahead of us. We need to respond to what happened on Sunday.
There's a very old saying, good teams train and poor teams meet. Let's hope they do some training too.
Well, that's right.
Get better at what they're supposed to do for
Interesting you should say that, because we had a number of directors filing through, obviously, as they do early on in the week, and they actually made a point, it's good to see the boys out there training for goal kicking, for example. Training for this, training for that. So now we've certainly ramped it up. Over the selection table yesterday, we obviously we've got a couple of different things up our sleeve, which we need to employ. That we spoke about pre-season, that we probably haven't taken into the season. We adopted pre-season, but chose not to take them. But I think the time's now that we actually take them into game day.
Well, before we continue to sort of pull it apart, let's talk about maybe some of the kids that, whether they are part of the conversation, have been or not, I'm sure will be in the near future. Paddy Cripps looked like a real player during the pre-season, and there's been sort of things put out about Cripps's athleticism, during the time that since the time he got drafted, but he clearly put some good numbers together on the weekend.
Certainly did. He ended up with 35 for the day, his best game by far. I mean, we still need to remember he's an 18-year-old boy, but certainly he's got a good size about him. He probably hasn't got the engine that is required for consistent AFL footy, but he's playing such good footy in the Northern Blues, it's hard for us to go past him for too much longer.
Tom Tomei, without seeing the game, you probably see the box scores and you see that he's kicked 4, which for us who know where he was drafted and where he's come from, it's a reason enough to get excited. Is he doing enough across 4 quarters yet to get the selectors excited about him?
Probably not on a consistent basis. Again, it was probably his best game on Sunday in the Northern Blues, kicked 4 goals, and a couple of those goals are really good things to see. The Crumming goal you just saw then and the 2 goals before that, good Crumming goals, and that's his go, Tommy. He's a good runner, he's got a good motor in him. I think he was a underage 3,000 metre runner. But he probably hasn't used his strength on the footy field, his running ability on the footy field as much as we would have liked. But he's actually starting to do that now. So
backing himself a bit more?
That's right, absolutely. And running off the half-back line or wherever he is, and that power type of running, and he's starting to do that now, which we're looking forward to seeing more of.
Geez, if you had a look at Dylan Buckley in the last couple of weeks, I know Dylan had a tough time on the weekend, but if he uses him as his kind of template to follow, then he's got one to go. Sam Docherty's the other one, who he obviously traded for, played on the weekend, got through the game okay. How far away is he, Macca?
He's still a few weeks away. He had a good game on the weekend. That was his first game for the season. He has had a few unfortunate things go on pre-season, including some injuries and some illness. So really, although he had a really good pre-season prior to Christmas, it all came tumbling down around that Christmas period and got injured and a couple of other things happened. But really, he's only been training fully for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So he's still a few weeks away, but we're looking forward to him. You watch the Northern Blues game on the weekend and you can see that he's a talented footballer. You can see he can actually pinpoint a kick. His foot disposal is elite. So we're looking forward to slotting him into the team.
Can I ask you two blokes, as former captain of the club and a guy who's stood his ground in front of opposition teams, there were three things that happened on the weekend as a Carlton supporter, and my Carlton supporter mates were appalled by. And I'll give you the three examples and tell me how you would have handled them in your own way. Goddard ruffles the feathers of Dylan Buckley after Buckley was caught one-on-one and beaten in a goal square thing early. The skipper gets ragdolled a fair bit around stoppages by Heath Hocking. No one comes in to remonstrate or get in the way, a la the way they didn't. No one ran to Buckley's side. I think Jamo came over late, but no one really got in Goddard's face and did anything about it. And Zach Tui kicked that goal in the second quarter, albeit we're still 6 goals down. But there seemed to be a listless reaction to it. There's hardly anyone got around him and there was no energy created. As great Carlton men... Let
me do the first one.
OK.
Mick Malthouse, remember, in the early 80s, he played against Carlton, he played for Richmond. He knocked David Glascott to the ground at some stage when he was a young kid, probably 18 years of age, in the same situation, came from behind and hit him in a position that we didn't think was very good. He didn't finish the game.
Right. It's a different game nowadays, isn't
I understand that, but there's ways and means of doing things.
Yep.
And he would remember that.
Yep.
Don't tell me he wouldn't remember it. So, I mean, I just, at some stages, I think that you've got to, uphold the flag and uphold your teammates. And that's one of the things I wrote down. Their teamwork is so poor at the moment, and that's because of inconsistency, confidence is low, spirits down, and I ask why.
I think it was a snowball effect on Sunday night, wasn't it? Jared misses that goal early on, and it's probably brought back memories from the week before. And all of a sudden, Essendon kick a few more goals, and the sucks the life out of us. Then the snowball starts, and they lose that bit of belief, and then they lose that bit of vigour, and then Dylan Buckley gets manhandled, and they haven't got the vigour to actually stand up for the poor young fella.
Yeah.
Murph gets bustled around. There's no help there. There's no excitement around a Zach Tui goal. Everyone's just flat as tacks, and that's just a snowball from probably the first 10 minutes of the game.
Flatten you as great Carlton men, though? Does that kind of flatten you a little bit when you're watching it?
It does. We need to take a stand and stand up for each other. I mean, it's been publicised, the meeting after the game that the players had. Players took it upon themselves to go into the room after the game and to dissect it a little bit.
What's the outcome of that?
That was what was talked about the most. We need to actually do two things. We need to play for each other as a team. In doing that, you need to actually have the mindset of how am I going to make my teammate better?
Yeah, selflessness.
Selflessness.
Yep.
And that was what came out of the meeting. They were in there for 45 minutes, and that was the main message that came out of that meeting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on Saturday.
Well, now we need to see a response.
That's right, absolutely.
And some people say we should be looking for a harder side than Melbourne. Well, I say no. I think...
any side will do.
Any side will do.
We just need to beat them.
Beat someone.
And
in the right manner.
Not only do exactly.
Right,
we don't need to just beat them. We need to go about it the right way and actually be decisive. Not necessarily on the scoreboard, but be strong and decisive.
And they're not going to be a snack either. We had 29 inside 50s last week. Absolutely. 29 inside 50s, they had 39. So, I mean, we're in a bit of a bind at this stage.
They'll make it hard, no doubt about that. Let's lighten it up a little bit and take a drive with Sam Pang.
Pre-game routine, night before a game.
Just watch a bit of TV with Maher Bordelotto, used to live with me.
You used to flat with Maher Bordelotto?
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole show right there.
Whole show right there. I could tell you stories. Oh my God! But seriously, Sam, we would have a couple of beers. I don't know.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, not right to say it, but we'd have a couple of beers. We'd sit at home, and that's especially when Parko was coaching, and you'd wait for his phone call. He'd ring you every Friday night to discuss where you're going to play, what position, or if you're playing on the bench, or So, he'd ask, what have you eaten, what have you had to drink. You're not going to tell him you had a beer.
What did you tell him you ate? Did you just say pasta?
Pasta, yeah.
Was it really pasta, or was it?
No, pasta,
okay.
Usually, we had that.
So every Friday night, you'd be sitting at home before a game with Maher Bordelotto, watching some television, having a couple of beers, waiting for David Parker to call you.
Yeah. And he called
it. Friday night, mate.
Yeah, and he called everyone. Every bloke he'd call. So imagine him on the phone calling, say, 20 odd blokes and talking to them.
Nowadays you just text them, just a group text.
Text, yeah. But he was a fanatic, Parko, absolute fanatic, and again, you know, privileged to be coached by someone like him.
It's great stuff. You can see the whole interview on the website, carltonfc.com.au. That's just about all we've got time for. I hope one story that I have heard is true, and that's on those Friday night ring-arounds, and you'll probably be able to tell me whether this is true or not.
I probably could.
That Val Perovic played great footy for Carlton for a long period of time, obviously needed to just have a couple of little nerve settlers at a local inn in Carlton with a couple of his mates, and Parko used to actually call him at the pub, and they put the phone across the front bar, and that's where Val would get his final instructions.
No, I think that's
is that a true story or not?
I don't think so.
Oh, don't tell me that.
I don't think he ever found him on a Friday night at all.
They can never find him at home, and they found him at the Carlton Club Hotel.
He might have made 20 phone calls, but he didn't get 20
Where
blokes.
were you on Friday nights?
I was at home all the time.
Oh, of course you were.
I was worn out by then.
I bet you were. Macca, I'm sure every Carlton supporter who's watched this today would appreciate your honesty, and we appreciate you coming in and having a chat.
Thanks, Andrew. It's you know, I want to reiterate, it's time to get back on the horse. It's time to be positive. We need to see that reaction from the players that everyone's looking for, but I'm sure it'll come this Saturday, and looking for everyone's support in doing that.
You stick fat at times like that. That's episode 3. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for our next instalment of The Blueprint. Later this week, go Blues.